They are under starters' orders, all eyes on the traffic lights for the start. They change from red to green, and they're off. The charge is on then to the first corner. And it's Sven Seidel who's made the break. Sven Seidel, number 7. Behind him, number 8, Andy Hoffman. Number 19, Edwin Weibel up there alongside Hoffman. And oh dear, that was people all over the place. A nasty moment there for some of the guys at the back, very close to landing on their ear. Conditions far from perfect. Sven Seidel then on the Heinz-Gericke Suzuki, the Suzuki Deutschland machine out in front, and if you make a bad start here, you are in trouble. Andy Hoffman, though, already just pushing, probing, looking for a way through. They're going to take things a little bit cautiously, I suspect, though, for the time being. Nobody wants to make a mistake here if they can avoid it. Seidel leads from Hoffman, and Weibel behind there in third spot. This is the testing ground that the Goodyear Tyre Company use, and some of the other manufacturers showing their works here as well. And Schwender up in that group going well, closing on the leaders. And well, that was number 3, Bernd Kaspers on the Moto Tom Ducati, who's got a lot of work to do to catch the leaders after a poor start. Still, Seidel and Hoffman round the hairpin. You can see the puddles still lying on the track. Geschwender, though, up, and a faller. And that was Arpad Harmati, the Hungarian, just flicked off the motorcycle, and he doesn't quite know which way to run to get out of the way of the bikes that are following through. Meantime, it's still the motorcycle dealer from Speyer, Sven Seidel on the Suzuki, Ernst Geschwender, then Thomas Franz moving up, Thomas Stocker ahead of a group behind that's beginning to close up on the leaders. Well, it's a bit like an ice rink out there. Now, one or two of the competitors have found to their cost, and still Seidel has the constant presence of Andy Hoffman behind. Geschwender, then Thomas Franz, then Thomas Stocker trying to break free from that group that's behind. Peter Robato was up there. Oh, and I think that's Robato that's gone down, and 2 riders fallen. Well, that's very sad indeed. And that is the leaders. It's Seidel who's gone down, and so too did Hoffman, and that has left Geschwender and Thomas Franz. Oh dear, and another faller. Peter Robato goes down. Well, that really is sad. Andy Hoffman looking not too pleased, a very unhappy chappy there. And Sven Seidel shakes his head in disbelief. That really was unfortunate. Geschwender then the race leader, but now he's got Thomas Franz breathing down his neck. And moving up through the field comes number 48, the Australian Owen Coles on the Ducati, the DNL Marishin Ducati. So 2 battles going on. Out at the front, it's Ernst Geschwender on the Kawasaki, Thomas Franz on the Honda, and he goes through, looks for the inside line, and I think he's got him. Well, they're still picking up the motorcycles. That was Hoffman's Kawasaki, a little bit battered and second-hand, but Thomas Franz came out on top in that little brave manoeuvre there. Fine little ride by a fine little rider. Thomas Franz, not very tall, but he knows how to ride a motorcycle, and he has got ahead of Ernst Geschwender. And, well, here comes Owen Coles, the Colonials having a go. Owen Coles moving in. It's now a 3-rider battle out of the front. The front 3 together, and Geschwender, and there's the rest of the pack chasing. And one or two of them trying very hard considering the conditions, and Coles is up to 2nd place. Thomas Franz leads. Owen Coles goes through into 2nd place. And lots of wheel spin from the RC30 of Thomas Franz as he winds up the wick. The other 2 are in chase. Chin on the tank. The track is drying out just a little bit, but then they come to puddles, and Owen Coles leaning, pushing over. Geschwender has to back off. This corner at the end of the straight, always tricky, almost 180 degrees it goes. And look at this. Owen Coles putting a lot of pressure on the race leader, Thomas Franz. Franz leaves a very wide line, and that was welcomed. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Owen Coles accepted the chance to go through on the gap, but Thomas Franz realised what was happening, tried to close the door, couldn't actually stop him, but I think they may well have made contact. And Owen Coles, the Australian now living and racing out of Germany, on the DNL Marashin Ducati, leads the race, and he is trying to pull away from the two Germans behind. Oh, and he's tried too hard. The back end just stepped out. He tried to correct it. The thing high-sided him, and poor old Owen Cole is another victim of the condition. Look at that. You can see him closing the throttle, speedway style there. He tried to correct the high side and the slide, and he was doomed almost from the start there. No way was Owen Cole going to get out of that one. Slides, fortunately, out of harm's way. So it's back to number 4, Thomas Franz, and number 6, Ernst Geschwender, to set to the pace here now. Well, a whole spate of crashes. A lot of good men have gone out, but it still looks like being a very, very interesting race. Thomas Franz then, the mighty Munchkin, out in front, but Ernst Geschwender is closing on him. Charging along. And, well, I'm sure these two guys have seen for themselves just how difficult it is to ride a motorcycle flat out in these conditions. And Franz leads. Well, Pro Superbike Racing will return in just a circuit. Goodyear, Colnenburg in Luxembourg. Thomas Franz on the Honda, still leading from Ernst Geschwender on the Kawasaki. Franz trying desperately to stay ahead of his Kawasaki rival Geschwender, the man who leads the championship chase at the moment. The track perhaps drying out a bit in places, but still very wet elsewhere. Conditions very difficult, and another faller, and that's Wolfgang Hambach on the Kawasaki, and he struggles to pick up the motorcycle. Now, can he get back in the race? Whoop! The marshal runs for safety. So this is the Sure International Trophy, round 3 of the Pro Superbike Series, and Geschwender tries to go round the outside, and he does. Geschwender grabs back the lead from Thomas Franz. The end of the straight, outbraked the Honda rider, and Geschwender now leads the championship, and he leads the race. But not for long. Franz just bided his time, responded with a challenge that Geschwender could do nothing about, and Franz now is back in front. Can Geschwender do anything about that? Well, Geschwender 32 points, 1 point ahead of Hambach before this race began, and Hambach, of course, a faller. We saw him go down. So Geschwender looking good at the moment. But Thomas Franz ahead of him, and that means 20 points possibly in the bag for the Honda man. And it looks as though we're going to have a 3-rider race, because number 55, Roland Oschwald on the Ducati, is just beginning. There he is in the distance, in the background. You can see part of the track where the racing line has been and where the wind's got it. And here he comes, 55, Roland Oschwald. And number 12, that Stocker behind him was number 72, Rainer Janisch, and number 13, Michael Galinski. They're fighting it out in a little group for 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th places. And look at the fight for the lead. Geschwender having a go. And here's this little group. And Galinski moving up to challenge Thomas Stocker. Well, there's some very brave men out there, considering how tricky conditions are. And the battle for 4th place really hotting up. Stocker ahead of Galinski, and a fair old group behind. Ooh, Galinski tried to go for the inside, but the door was firmly closed in his face. Stocker, who was well down the grid, he's made a remarkable charge through, considering the conditions. Michael Galinski, number 13, behind him. And 6 riders all together in a little haymaker of a contest. Stocker at the head of the group. That's Rainer Janisch. Not seen a lot of him in the Pro Superbike series so far this year. And meantime, we join the battle for the lead with Franz shadowed, chased all the way by Geschwender. And Stocker and co are now getting a little bit closer to number 55, Roland Oschwald. So things beginning to happen a bit further down the field. Now, Franz has broken clear. This is lap 10, the leaders are going out on, and Geschwender has also been overtaken by Oschwald, so maybe Geschwender has got a problem. Galinski is up there. And so too is Bernard Schick. There is Schick having a bit of a charge. And Geschwender, well, what happened to him? Up with the leaders, dropped back to second place, then to third. But he's still holding off Galinski and Schick. But for how long, the question is. Geschwender, a remarkable rider, had a very nasty crash a couple of seasons ago, broke his neck, but came bouncing back, fearless sort of man. I've seen him race at places like Macau. Oh, and Galinski trying very hard indeed, but Geschwender will not allow him to go through. And there goes Schick round the outside. That'll put him on the tight line for the inside. Oh, and Galinski just rode across the front wheel of Geschwender, and at the same time Bernard Schick dived through on the inside. So poor old Ernst Geschwender loses another place. In fact, he loses 2 more places. Well, Geschwender, the championship leader, looked as though he was going to be in for a bag full of points to retain his championship lead, but suddenly it's all beginning to go a little sour for him. And Schick now looks as though he's got the Ducati ahead of Michael Galinski. And there is Schick, number 9. Behind him, number 13, Galinski. Then just a glimpse of number 6, Geschwender. And they're getting closer to Roland Oschwald. Oschwald, who's in second place, still out in front is Thomas Franz. This is a good ride from Oschwald. He was 7th in the opening round of the competition. We didn't see an awful lot of him then, but this is certainly his sort of conditions. When the track's a bit greasy, he's obviously enjoying himself. And look at this charge that Bernard Schick is making, and it's the fastest lap, no surprise really, 1:30.69, the fastest lap for Ducati-mounted Schick, as he leads Michael Galinski as the pair try to move towards the front, and Geschwender has lost yet another place, dropping back down the field all the time, as Schick and Galinski move closer and closer to second place man Oschwald, and that in turn takes them closer and closer to the race leader, number 4, Thomas Franz. And Schick has got level with Oschwald. He's on the best line. He just slots his Ducati ahead of the Ducati Oschwald. Michael Galinski, number 13, just not able to stay with the pace of Schick on that last couple of laps, the fastest lap for Schick, and then he forced his way through into second place. Oschwald there, down in third place now. Oschwald not being shaken off though, and I would imagine that the performance of the 2 Ducatis are very, very similar. Certainly Schick, though he's a man on form, he came charging through from down the grid. A poor start, a sluggish start for Bernard Schick, who a former 250 Grand Prix rider, was in the same team as Martin Wimmer a few years ago. Roland Oschwald going very well indeed. This is certainly one of the best rides of his career. Oh, and a faller, Thomas Stocker, who was looking for a top 10 place, has also found that the race surface here at Colnenburg can be very, very treacherous. No problems, no injury, but he's definitely out of the race. Now, this is the leader, Thomas Franz. Behind him comes Bernhard Schick, number 9. Then it's number 55, Oswald, on the Ducati. Now, can Schick close on the leader? Michael Galinski is behind him. And Galinski, in turn, is coming under pressure. Bernhard Schick trying very hard indeed to catch the leader. There's Oswald, there's Galinski, and moving up the field very quickly indeed is number 33, Kai-Uwe Schmidt, just behind Michael Galinski. And that's a good performance from Schmidt. Look at him, right on the rear tyre now of Galinski. Schmidt putting the pressure on, looking for a way through, trying the outside route, and that's not really recommended. Back with Schmidt, who... Schick, or rather, Bernhard Schick, who is in second place. You can see the track drying in parts, but still very damp and very, very slippery in other places. And here's this scrap behind Oswald, and Kai-Uwe Schmidt has now gone ahead of Michael Galinski. So his progress towards the front continues, and he winds up the wick on the motorcycle, and he starts to move towards the front. And Thomas Franz under pressure now from Bernhard Schick. Schick has made remarkable recovery. It was not the best of starts in the world for Schick, but he's caught all the leaders, and he's now finally arrived on the rear tyre of Thomas Franz. Oh, and a blow up there. Lots of white smoke and oil, and finally the oil from that exploding motorcycle causes chaos and confusion. The man in trouble, number 16, Harry Winter, and that's an RC30 that's gone bang, and several riders gone down. That's number 31, Thomas Oxenreiter, and number 27, Marcus Josh. Well, others did stay on, but there were riders and bikes everywhere, and that is an expensive and costly blow-up, not just for poor old number 16 Harry Winter, but for some of his rivals. And look at the rear tyre on Thomas Franz's RC30 Honda. I think the tyre is beginning to give him problems. It is the final lap, though. Can Franz stay ahead of his big rival Bernhard Schick on this final lap? Well, one circuit of this Colnenburg track to go. Just look at how that rear tyre slides around. Thomas Franz is a hero to be going the pace that he is going. Make very careful to avoid the oil spill left by that exploding RC30 Honda. The repair bill for that, I just wouldn't like to even think about. And Franz looks as though he's pulled away. He's broken the challenge from Bernhard Schick, and with that tyre slipping and sliding all the way around, that really is a remarkable performance from Thomas Franz. An excellent ride. He's kept his head and kept his wheels down and the fairing up, while his co-competitors have struggled to stay in contact with him. And Thomas Franz has broken the challenge of his big rival Schick. You saw another slide there, but it didn't phase him out at all. Just this hairpin to go. Winds up the wick on the RC30 Honda, and a wheelie. He can afford to celebrate. He's got a nice, comfortable lead. And